You know, usually when we talk about getting a diagnostic read on something, like, say, a medical diagnosis, there is this built-in expectation of just pure, unfiltered precision.
Right, yeah, like engineering.
Exactly. Like, it's a binary thing. You fall off your bike, you break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line on the screen, and the doctor just points at it and says, there it is. That's the problem.
It's comforting. It's a yes or no question. Broken or not broken.
Right. It's a clean, localized answer.
And as humans, we desperately like things to be visible. We like them to be categorized. And most importantly, isolated. Like, if the arm is broken, you fix the arm. You don't need to look at the kidneys to fix a fractured radius.
Right. Of course not. But then you step into the world of Vedic astrology, and specifically you look at a standard overarching birth chart, and suddenly that crisp, clean x-ray machine feels like it's taking a blurry panoramic picture of a moving crowd at a train station.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Because we are looking at a diagnostic landscape of an entire human life, and honestly, it's muddy. It is wonderfully, terrifyingly broad. Like, you might see a planet sitting in a specific sign, say, Mars in Gemini. But how does that actually play out for you?
Right.
Is that Mars going to give you aggressive communication in your marriage, or is it going to make you a brilliant, fast-paced strategist in your career? You just don't know from that one wide shot.
It is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters. A standard birth chart, which we call the D1 or the Rashi chart, it really just gives you the grand sweeping architecture of a person's life.
The big picture.
Exactly. It tells you the size of the house, the general style of the architecture, maybe the neighborhood it's built in. But it absolutely does not give you the plumbing layout. It doesn't show you the wiring schematic. And it certainly doesn't tell you the paint colors of specific private rooms inside that house.
Which is exactly why we are opening this particular door today. So if you are sitting down with us right now, you are ready for part 2 of our deep dive into Vedic astrology divisional charts, or Vargas.
Yes, we are.
And honestly, this tells me that you aren't satisfied with just the broad strokes anymore. You don't just want to know you have a nice house. You want to know if the foundation has cracks, and you want the high-definition resolution to actually go in and find them.
Which is exactly the promise these Vargas hold. We are taking that main birth chart, that D1, and we are literally placing it under a high-powered microscope. We are mathematically slicing it up to examine highly specific, isolated areas of human existence.
So let's ground this in a quick reminder of what we established in part 1, because we talked about how a planet might look incredibly strong, like exalted and powerful in your main birth chart.
Right on the surface.
Yeah, on the surface. But when you zoom into a specific divisional chart, say the one for your finances or your marriage, that exact same strong planet might actually be struggling.
Completely gasping for air, yeah.
It completely changes the game. It's like finding out your star quarterback is terrible at playing defense. So today, we are all about understanding the why, and crucially, mastering the how of 3 incredibly revealing charts. And we are going to do it without drowning in overly dense jargon.
I promise we will keep it light. But these 3 specific charts we are unpacking today are, at least in my view, some of the most critical for understanding the actual lived trajectory of an adult life. They move us past potential and into hard reality.
So here's our roadmap for today. We are going to start with the D10, the Dashamsha. This is the ultimate, undisputed chart for your career, your concrete achievements, and your professional standing in the world.
The big one.
The big one. From there, we are going to travel backward in time to the D12, the Dwadashamsha. And this one is wildly fascinating because it covers our parents, our deepest roots, and even, get this, our past lives.
Oh, it gets deep.
It really does. And finally, once we've looked at our career and our roots, we are going to brave the deep, dark waters of the D30, the Trimshamsha. This is the shadow chart. It maps our miseries, our dangers, and our underlying character flaws.
It's a very complete, almost poetic picture of human development, if you think about it. We start with what we are desperately trying to build out there in the world. Then we realize we have to look back at the foundation we were built upon. And finally, we confront the internal struggles that will ultimately test the integrity of our structure.
Now, real quick, if you are listening to this and you feel a wave of math anxiety washing over you right now, I need you to just pause and take a breath. Yes, we are going to be dividing 30-degree zodiac signs into smaller and smaller slices.
It sounds scary, but it's not.
It's really not. Yes, there are specific rules for odd signs and even signs, but I promise you, The seemingly intimidating math behind these charts is not calculus. It is just a series of incredibly elegant mental shortcuts and puzzle pieces. We're going to walk through them step by step. Just picture us sitting at a coffee shop, sliding a napkin back and forth, figuring out a fun logic puzzle together.
That really is the best way to approach it. Because the ancient sages who developed this system, they didn't design it to be some sort of academic punishment.
It definitely feels like it sometimes.
I know. But they designed it as a rhythmic, cyclic system of observation. Once your brain recognizes the underlying pattern, it just clicks into place. It's like learning the rules to a board game.
Okay, let's jump right into that first pattern. Section 1, the Dashamsha, or the D10 chart. We are starting here because, well, this is the arena where most of us spend the vast majority of our waking hours. Our anxiety, our ambition, our effort, our career.
It consumes us.
It really does. And if you really want to understand the tangible fruits of all that professional sweat and tears, you can't just stare at the main birth chart. You have to zoom in on the D10.
Precisely. The D10, the Dashamsha, is fundamentally the architecture of achievement. When we consult the primary source materials on these divisional charts, they are very, very explicit.
What do they say?
They state that the D10 is to be analyzed for prosperity, for upliftment, for one's great achievements, honor, and professional success in life. It is, quite literally, the chart of your public footprint.
Okay, let's unpack the why behind that for a second. Because we have other charts for wealth, right? I mean, we talked about the D2, the Hora, in part 1, which we know is specifically for finance and liquid assets.
Right, the bank account chart.
Yeah, so why did the sages feel the need to create a completely separate, highly detailed chart just for career prosperity? Isn't money and career kind of the same thing?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
There is a massive philosophical difference between having money and having a legacy. There's a fundamental difference between finding a $100 bill on the sidewalk and earning a promotion after 3 years of grueling, dedicated work.
Oh, I see.
The D10 is intricately connected to the 10th house of the main birth chart. And in Vedic astrology, the 10th house is known as the Karma Bhava.
Karma Bhava, meaning the house of action.
Exactly, the house of action, the house of profession. In the actual sky, the 10th house represents the midheaven, the meridian. It is the absolute highest point the sun reaches in its daily journey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it is where you are most visible to the world. Therefore, the D10 reveals the actual lived results of your personal efforts. It maps the promotions, yes, but it also maps the demotions, the periods of intense professional burnout, the sudden job changes, the friction with bosses.
So it's basically separating unearned luck, or like passive income, from the prosperity you generate through sheer grinding personal effort.
Yes, it shows where your good fortune resides, specifically in the realm of action. It tells you exactly where you should be channeling your energies for optimum real-world results. If someone comes to me and asks, hey, should I be an independent entrepreneur or should I be climbing the corporate ladder in a massive Fortune 500 company? The answer is heavily embedded in the D10.
That is incredibly practical.
Exactly.
Because we all know people who are brilliant, they have amazing potential in their main chart, but their careers just constantly stall out. They just hit a wall.
And that is very often the D10 at work. It is the ultimate diagnostic tool for professional alignment. Let's say you have a planet, maybe Jupiter, sitting beautifully in your main birth chart, just a glowing, happy Jupiter.
Okay.
But when we calculate your D10, we find that Jupiter is debilitated.
Wait, let's define debilitated real quick for anyone new to that term.
Yeah.
Meaning the planet is sitting in a zodiac sign where it basically loses its power or feels deeply uncomfortable, right? It acts negatively.
Spot on. It's struggling to express its natural positive energy.
Yeah.
So if your Jupiter's debilitated in the D10 when that Jupiter time period runs in your life, you might experience massive professional frustration. You might get passed over for promotions, or your business expansion might fail, no matter how good that Jupiter looked on the surface of the D1 chart. Conversely, a mediocre planet in the main chart that is exalted and powerful in the D10 can bring a shocking, dazzling career rise that nobody saw coming.
Okay, I am fully sold on the value of this chart. Let's get into the mechanics. How do we actually build the D10? Let's bring out our metaphorical coffee shop napkin and look at the math and the mental shortcuts.
Let's do it.
Ah.
So we start with a standard zodiac sign. Let's say Scorpio or Aries. It doesn't matter. Every single sign in the zodiac is exactly 30 degrees long. That's our baseline.
Right, 30 degrees.
The word Dashamsha literally translates to 10 parts.
Yeah.
So the very first step is to divide that 30-degree sign by 10.
Which gives us incredibly clean math. 30 divided by 10 is 3. So we have 10 slices, and every single slice is exactly 3 degrees wide.
Very clean. Slice 1 is 0 to 3 degrees. Slice 2 is 3 to 6 degrees. Slice 3 is 6 to 9, all the way up to the 10th slice, which ends at the full 30 degrees.
So far, so good. Now, the big question. Let's say I have a planet sitting at 4 degrees, so it's obviously in the second slice, which is the 3 to 6 range.
Right.
How do I assign that planet to its new home, its new zodiac sign, in the D10 chart? Because the source texts give us 2 distinct rules for this, one for odd signs and one for even signs.
Right. And just to lay the foundational groundwork for anyone who needs a refresher, odd signs are the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th signs of the zodiac.
Let me list those out. That's Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aquarius.
Exactly. And the even signs are the 2nd, 4th, 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th. Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Pisces.
Okay, so here's the rule for odd signs. If a planet is sitting in an odd sign in your main birth chart, the counting for its D10 placement simply starts from the sign itself.
It is beautifully direct. If your planet is in Aries, which is an odd sign, your slice 1 is just Aries.
Easy enough. But then we get to the rule for even signs, and this is where the plot thickens. If a planet is in an even sign, you don't start counting from the sign itself. The counting starts from the 9th house away from where the planet sits.
That is the codified rule. Odd signs start from themselves. Even signs start exactly 9 signs away.
Okay, I use a mental shortcut for this, like an analogy, because otherwise I'll completely forget the distinction. I like to think of this in terms of career mobility, like climbing the corporate ladder.
Okay, I like where this is going.
For the odd signs, it's very straightforward. You walk through the front doors of your own company's headquarters, you swipe your badge at the ground floor lobby, and you start climbing the stairs right there in your own building. You start from the sign itself.
A very direct, unmediated path to the top.
Exactly. But for the even signs, your career trajectory requires a detour. You can't just climb your own building. You swipe your badge, but the elevator's out and the stairs are blocked, so you have to take a sky bridge, and you have to walk exactly 9 blocks down the street to a totally different affiliated building.
Right.
And then you start counting your slices to see how high you climb.
I like that visualization. It effectively highlights the dramatic shift in the starting position for half the zodiac.
But I'm going to stop you here, because the first time I learned this, it drove me crazy. Why the 9th house for even signs? That feels completely random.
It does feel a bit jarring at first.
We are talking about the D10, which maps the 10th house of career and action. Why on earth are we suddenly jumping 9 houses away just because the sign is even? What is the actual astrological logic behind that specific 9-house jump?
It is a brilliant question, and answering it goes right to the philosophical heart of what the D10 actually represents. I assure you, it is not random at all. In Vedic astrology, the 9th house is known as the house of Dharma.
Dharma.
Yes, it is the house of fortune, of higher purpose, of philosophy, and of the guru or divine guidance.
Okay. Fortune, purpose, and guidance.
Now think deeply about the nature of true, lasting career success. Is it purely just raw, unthinking action? Is it just digging a ditch for 14 hours a day?
Well, no. I mean, hard work matters, but it's not everything.
No, it's not. To reach the absolute pinnacle of the 10th house, to achieve that sustained upliftment and honor the text mentioned, your actions cannot be hollow. Your ambition must be infused with dharma, with a higher guiding purpose, and frankly, it requires a healthy dose of fortune or grace.
Oh, I see.
The 9th house is the foundational supporting pillar to the 10th house. By forcing us to intertwine the 9th house into the mathematical calculation of the career chart for half the zodiac, the ancient sages were hard-coding a philosophical truth into the math itself.
Wow.
They were saying that true professional success is an inseparable marriage of your direct actions and your overarching fortune and purpose.
Okay, that just completely reframed how I look at this math. The math itself is a philosophical statement. It's essentially arguing that you cannot have the 10th house's prosperity without the 9th house's grace. So for the even signs, you literally have to source your starting energy from your fortune before you can act on it.
Precisely. This system isn't just a collection of arbitrary numerical rules. It is an entire spiritual philosophy rendered into mathematics.
That is fascinating. All right, let's put this philosophy to the test and walk through an example from the source text. This will let us practice the mental shortcut on our napkin here.
Perfect.
The text gives an example where the sun is placed in the main birth chart in the sign of Scorpio at exactly 23 degrees and 58 minutes.
Okay, so step 1. We need to determine which 3-degree slice that sun falls into.
Right, we take 23 degrees and 58 minutes, and we mentally divide it by our 3-degree chunks. Let's do the quick coffee shop math. I know my times tables. 3 times 7 is 21, so the 7th slice ends at exactly 21 degrees.
Correct, which means the 8th slice begins right at 21 degrees.
And it goes up to 24 degrees. So since our sun is sitting at 23 degrees and 58 minutes, it is comfortably tucked inside that 8th slice. It's almost at the end of it, but it's still in the 8th. So we hold the number 8 in our heads. That's our stair count.
Step 2, look at the nature of the sign itself. The sun is in Scorpio.
Scorpio is the 8th sign of the zodiac. 8 is an even number, therefore Scorpio is an even sign.
Which means we must apply the detour rule. We cannot start our counting from Scorpio. We have to take the sky bridge.
We have to walk 9 blocks down. We must jump 9 signs away from Scorpio to find our new ground floor, our new starting point.
Let's count them out sequentially so we don't lose our place. Position 1 is Scorpio itself.
Right.
2 is Sagittarius. 3 is Capricorn. 4 is Aquarius. 5 is Pisces. 6 is Aries. 7 is Taurus. 8 is Gemini. And 9 is Cancer.
Boom. Cancer is our new lobby. That is step 3. We are now standing in the Cancer building.
And finally, step 4. We apply the slice number we figured out in step 1. We must count 8 signs forward, starting from Cancer as number 1.
Okay, we are climbing 8 flights of stairs. Cancer is 1, Leo is 2, Virgo is 3, Libra is 4, Scorpio is 5, Sagittarius is 6, Capricorn is 7, Aquarius is 8. We land in Aquarius.
Therefore, a sun placed in Scorpio at 23 degrees and 58 minutes in the main birth chart will be placed in the sign of Aquarius in the D10 Dashamsha chart.
Okay, stop and think about what we just did. When you casually flip through an astrology textbook and you see all these grids and diamond charts and planetary degrees, it looks like insurmountable astrophysics.
It looks terrifying, I know.
But when you break it down, it is just simple rhythmic counting. Divide by 3, check if it's odd or even, and count forward.
Yep.
You just plotted your first D10 placement.
It is remarkably elegant. And once you do it a few times, it really becomes second nature.
Right.
You don't even need to write it down eventually. You can look at a planet's degree on a screen and instantly know where it sits in the career chart.
Let's talk about the so what of this, though. Because doing the math is fun, but interpreting it is why we are here. We just moved the sun from Scorpio in the main chart to Aquarius in the career chart. What does an Aquarius sun in the D10 actually tell us about this person's career?
This is where it gets incredibly rich. The sun represents authority, leadership, the ego, and visibility. In the main chart, it's in Scorpio, which is intense, secretive, strategic, maybe a bit dominating. But in the career sphere, the D10, it acts like it's in Aquarius.
And Aquarius is very different.
Extremely different. Aquarius is an air sign ruled by Saturn. It is about the collective, it's about innovation, humanitarian ideals, and breaking traditional structures.
Oh, that's a massive shift. So how does that play out in an office environment?
This is not the CEO who leads by ruling with an iron fist from a corner office. An Aquarius D10 sun is the leader who wants to democratize the workplace. They might thrive as a director of a nonprofit or leading a highly innovative tech startup where there is a flat hierarchy.
Right, no corner offices for them.
Exactly. They lead by consensus and vision rather than by intimidation. If you tried to force this person into a highly rigid, old-school corporate structure, their authority, their sun, would feel deeply stifled. They would be miserable.
That is so specific. You can literally see how someone might seem intense and private in their personal life, that Scorpio sun, but the moment they step into a leadership role at work, they become this progressive, team-oriented visionary. The D10 reveals that nuance.
Exactly. It gives you the high-definition resolution of their professional psychology.
Okay, so we've established the architecture of achievement. We know how to map the skyscraper of a career. But any structural engineer will tell you that a skyscraper is only as strong as the foundation it is built upon.
Which leads us perfectly to our next chart, the soil underneath the building.
Right. We have to acknowledge that while the D10 shows what we are building out there in the public world, we absolutely cannot fully understand our life's trajectory without looking at where we came from. We need to examine our roots. And that brings us to section 2, the Dwadashamsha, the D12.
The D12 is unequivocally the chart of our roots. When we consult the classical source texts on the Jyotish Vargas, which are the 16 divisional charts, the indications for analyzing the Dwadashamsha are very clear. The text lists, quote, parents, parental happiness, etc.
Parental happiness. That is a loaded phrase, let me tell you. So the why behind the D12 is profoundly personal. This is the chart you pull up when you want to understand the deeply embedded dynamics with the people who raised you.
Yes. And within this chart, the classical sources are quite specific about how we differentiate between the two parents.
Well, it splits them up.
It does. To study the mother, we look primarily at the 4th house of the D12 chart. To study the father, we look at the 9th house.
Now, that mirrors the main birth chart too, doesn't it? In the standard D1 chart, the 4th house is traditionally home, roots, emotional security, and the mother. And there's that 9th house again, representing the father, the guru, the guiding figure.
It does mirror it, but the D12 acts as an intensely concentrated magnifying glass exclusively on those specific parental relationships. It isolates them. In the main chart, the 4th house also rules your physical house, your vehicles, your general peace of mind.
It's crowded.
It's very crowded. But in the D12, it is zeroed in on the mother. If you want to know about the health of the mother, the professional success or failure of the father, or the native psychological relationship with them, you study the D12.
But the source text introduces this fascinating, almost esoteric twist to the D12 that completely blew my mind when I read it.
The past lives connection.
Yes. It states that the D12 isn't just about biological parents. It says it provides a link between past and future lives, and it deals with higher consciousness.
That is the profound depth of Vedic astrological philosophy right there. It absolutely does not view parents as merely biological accidents or random genetic lottery draws.
Hold on, I need you to unpack that. How can one single chart represent both our mundane, everyday relationship with our parents, like arguing over curfew or borrowing money, and something as vast and cosmic as our past lives? What is the philosophical tissue connecting those two concepts?
It comes down to the core Vedic concept of karma and incarnation. The philosophy suggests that a soul does not just randomly land in a family.
It's not a dice roll.
No, the soul, prior to birth, actively chooses its parents, or is magnetically drawn to specific parents in order to work out highly specific past life karma.
So the parents are literally the physical anchor to our spiritual past.
Exactly. Think about it. The environment your parents provide, the specific genetics they pass down, the wealth or poverty you were born into, the exact psychological wounds they inflict, or the incredible gifts they bestow. These are not random.
That is a lot to take in.
According to this philosophy, these are the exact required ingredients the soul needs to continue its evolution from previous lifetimes.
That is heavy.
It is. Therefore, by intensely studying the parents in the D12 chart, you are effectively studying the unresolved karma the soul brought into this current lifetime. The parents, and your relationship to them, are the visible flesh and blood manifestation of your past life baggage and your past life blessings.
Wow. It frames the relationship with your parents not just as a psychological dynamic to work out in therapy, but as a spiritual assignment. You look at your mother or your father and realize, my soul needed exactly this flavor of friction or love to evolve.
Which is precisely why the text connects the D12 to higher consciousness. Because truly understanding your roots and forgiving the imperfections of those roots is the first necessary step to transcending them. You cannot reach higher consciousness if you are still unconsciously chained to parental trauma.
Okay, I need a second to process that. Let's ground this back into the math before we get too existentially deep. Let's look at the actual mechanics of constructing the D12. Dwadashamsha means 12 parts, so we are taking our standard 30-degree zodiac sign and dividing it by 12.
Right, 30 divided by 12 gives us chunks of exactly 2 degrees and 30 minutes, or in decimal terms, 2.5 degrees.
And the rule for placement here is honestly the most straightforward one we have today. It is beautifully, purely cyclic. The source text literally says, quote, "The 12 parts are ruled by the lords of the 12 signs successively from the sign under consideration."
Meaning you always start counting from the sign the planet is currently sitting in. There is no odd or even rule here. There is no taking a sky bridge and jumping 9 houses away.
Thank goodness it's just a clock face. My analogy for the D12 is a simple analog clock. You always start your count at 12 o'clock, which represents the planet's current sign in the birth chart, and you just tick forward around the dial, sign by sign, based on which of the 12 slices the planet falls into.
A very clean, unbroken progression.
But I will admit, doing the mental math for chunks of 2 degrees and 30 minutes can get deeply annoying. If a planet is at 18 degrees, adding up 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5 in your head, it's really easy to lose your place and miscalculate. So I was playing with the numbers, and I want to offer a mental shortcut here, a cheat code for the listener.
I love a good cheat code. Let's hear it.
If one slice is 2.5 degrees, then 4 slices is exactly 10 degrees.
Right.
2.5 times 4 is 10. That's a nice, round, highly manageable number. So every 10 degrees equals exactly 4 signs or slices.
That is a very useful shortcut. It anchors the math in easy milestones.
Yeah. So if your planet is sitting at 11 degrees, you don't have to count up from 0 by 2.5s. You just know that the first 10 degrees cover slices 1 through 4. So 11 degrees obviously has to be in the 5th slice.
Right.
If your planet is at 22 degrees, you know that 20 degrees covers 8 slices. So 22 degrees must fall into the 9th slice.
It saves a lot of mental heavy lifting. Let's test your cheat code with the specific example provided in the source material.
Let's do it. Walk us through it.
The source gives an example of a planet placed in the sign of Aries, sitting at exactly 12 degrees and 34 minutes. We need to find its D12 placement.
Okay, step 1. Determine the slice. We use the 10-degree shortcut. The planet is at 12 degrees and 34 minutes. I know instantly that 10 degrees is exactly the end of the 4th slice. From there, we add one more slice of 2.5 degrees. That brings us to 12.5 degrees, which would be the end of the 5th slice. Now, here is where we have to be very careful with astrological math. We are dealing with degrees and minutes, not straight decimals.
This is a huge point of confusion.
Right, because 1 degree is composed of 60 minutes, therefore 0.5 degrees is exactly 30 minutes, which means 12.5 degrees is mathematically identical to 12 degrees and 30 minutes.
That is a crucial distinction that trips up a lot of beginners. 12.5 does not mean 12 degrees and 50 minutes. It means 12 degrees and 30 minutes.
Right, so the 5th slice ends exactly at 12 degrees and 30 minutes. Our planet is sitting at 12 degrees and 34 minutes. Since 34 minutes is larger than 30 minutes, it has just barely crossed the border. It is past 12.5 degrees. Therefore, it falls into the 6th slice.
Perfect deduction. The planet is in the 6th Dwadashamsha division.
Step 2. Apply the cyclic rule. The rule says start counting from the sign itself. Our planet is originally in Aries, so we start our clock face at Aries.
Now, step 3. Count. We need to count 6 signs forward, making sure to start with Aries as number 1.
Okay. Aries is 1, Taurus is 2, Gemini is 3, Cancer is 4, Leo is 5, Virgo is 6.
And there we have it. A planet sitting at 12 degrees and 34 minutes of Aries in the main birth chart will be placed in the sign of Virgo in the D12 Dwadashamsha chart.
It's so elegant. You look at 12 degrees, 34 minutes in Aries, you apply the 10-degree cheat code, you tick forward 6 spots around the dial, and bam, you are looking at Virgo. You are now reading the karmic roots of the person's chart.
And if you're doing a deep analysis of that chart, you would then look at what Virgo means for that specific person. Let's say that original planet was the moon, which represents the mind and the mother. The moon moves into Virgo in the D12. Virgo is an earth sign ruled by Mercury. It is highly analytical, service-oriented, but also prone to intense anxiety and perfectionism.
So what does that tell us about the karma with the parents?
It might suggest that the mother, represented by the moon, was perhaps highly critical, very focused on details, or perhaps struggled with nervous anxiety or health issues, as Virgo rules health and disease. It suggests the native's past life karma involves learning to navigate acts of service without falling into neurotic perfectionism. Their parents provided that exact environment for them to work it out. You start to unravel this incredibly complex intergenerational story.
Incredible. It's like DNA sequencing for the soul. Okay, take a breath. We've examined our public ambitions with the D10. We've dug deep into our karmic ancestral roots with the D12. Now it is time to face the inevitable friction of being alive.
The struggles.
The roadblocks.
Yes, we are moving from our foundations into the shadow. Because no life, no matter how good the D10 looks, is without friction. To understand why certain miseries happen to us, and far more importantly, how our underlying psychology and character handle those miseries, we have to dive into the deep, dark waters of Section 3, the Trimshamsha, or the D30 chart.
The D30 is a profoundly revealing chart and often a misunderstood one. The classical texts are quite blunt and somewhat stark about its purpose. It states that the D30 is to be seen for, quote, miseries, danger in life, or arishta. Arishta? That sounds ominous. What exactly does that translate to in a practical sense?
It translates roughly to general inauspiciousness, evils, or misfortunes. It represents the periods of acute suffering, the sudden accidents, the public downfalls, the chronic illnesses, the lawsuits. It maps the things we spend our entire lives trying to avoid.
The ultimate shadow chart. But crucially, the text notes another element that shifts the whole perspective. It says the D30 is also seen for the character of the native.
Yes, miseries and character.
And this is where I need you to connect the dots for me. Why are those two things explicitly linked? Why are external miseries and internal character sitting in the exact same divisional chart?
If we pull back and look at the bigger picture, it makes perfect psychological and spiritual sense. Firstly, from a purely observational standpoint, adversity reveals character. You don't truly know a person's character when everything is going perfectly, when their D10 career chart is booming and they are making money. You only truly know their character by observing how they respond when the D30 miseries hit, when the money dries up, or the illness strikes. Do they crumble? Do they lash out and blame others? Or do they rise with quiet resilience?
It's the old saying, character is what you are in the dark.
Exactly. But secondly, and this is perhaps more important in astrological philosophy, our internal character flaws often attract specific external adversities. It is a magnetic relationship.
Give me an example of that. How does a flaw attract a specific misery?
Let's say your character, as mapped in the D30, is deeply prone to arrogance and a lack of empathy. The miseries you experience will almost inevitably be humbling downfalls where you are isolated. If your character is prone to deceit or cutting corners, the dangers you face might involve betrayal by others or legal trouble. The universe provides the specific arishta or misfortune needed to force the painful evolution of that specific character flaw.
Oh, wow. So they are literally two sides of the same coin. The internal flaw and the external lesson. The character and the misery. That is intimidating, but it's also deeply empowering to realize you aren't just a passive victim of random bad luck. You're in an active, ongoing dialogue with your own shadow.
That is the absolute highest use of the D30. It is not there to strike fear or predict doom. It is there to foster deep, radical self-awareness.
Okay, let's look at the mechanics of the shadow chart, because the math here is entirely different from anything else we've looked at today. Trimshamsha means 30 parts. So logically, we divide a 30-degree sign by 30.
Which gives us 30 distinct 1-degree chunks.
But here's the massive catch. They aren't distributed equally. It's not just a cyclic counting of 30 equal slices like the D12. The degrees are grouped into uneven, asymmetrical blocks, and those blocks are assigned to specific planets.
This is a unique feature of the D30. It abandons equal signs and relies on a very specific sequence of planetary rulers holding different amounts of territory.
Let's break down the rule for odd signs first. The 30 degrees of an odd sign are chopped up into 5 blocks. A block of 5, another 5, an 8, a 7, and a final 5.
And those specific blocks are ruled by Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, and Venus in that exact order.
Let's map that out so the listener can visualize it. From 0 to 5 degrees is the territory of Mars. From 5 to 10 degrees is the territory of Saturn. From 10 to 18 degrees is Jupiter, that's the big block of 8.
Right.
From 18 to 25 degrees is Mercury, the block of 7. And from 25 to 30 degrees is Venus, the final block of 5.
That is the rigid sequence for all odd signs. Mars 5, Saturn 5, Jupiter 8, Mercury 7, Venus 5.
Now, the rule for even signs is incredibly easy to remember once you know the odd one, because it is exactly the reverse.
The sequence of blocks simply flips. It becomes 5, 7, 8, 5, 5.
And the planetary rulers reverse their order too. It goes Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars. So for an even sign, Venus gets the first 5 degrees, Mercury gets the next 7, Jupiter gets the 8 in the middle, Saturn gets 5, and Mars gets the final 5.
Correct. It's a perfect mirror image.
Hold on though, I'm looking at this list of rulers. Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus. Where's the sun? And the moon. You just completely left out the two most important celestial bodies in astrology. The king and queen of the planets literally do not get any degrees in the D30 chart. Why?
This raises a profoundly important question, and the answer is a beautiful, deeply poetic piece of astrological symbolism. Why exclude the sun and moon from the specific chart of misery and character flaws?
Yeah, without them, you're missing the core identity in the mind. It feels like half the chart is gone.
Well, in Vedic philosophy, the luminaries, the sun and the moon, represent the pure, unblemished soul, the atma, and the pure, receptive consciousness or mind, the manas. At their deepest absolute core, the soul and the pure mind are untainted. They're pure light. They do not possess inherent flaws, and they do not generate evils.
So they are essentially above the fray. They are perfect.
They don't deal with the gritty, flawed, messy shadow work of the D30. The other 5 planets, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, these are the manager planets. They rule the 5 physical elements. They manage our physical drives, our nervous systems, our ego boundaries, our appetites, and our material desires.
And that's where the trouble starts.
Exactly. It is in these terrestrial areas where flaws develop. The manager planets have to roll up their sleeves, get down in the mud, and deal with our character flaws. The king and queen remain pure, observing from above.
That is such a profound analogy. The pure eternal soul doesn't suffer character flaws. The human operating system does. And the 5 operating system planets are the only ones mapped in the D30.
Exactly. The D30 maps the glitches in the software, not the power source itself.
I absolutely love that. Okay, I want to give a memory trick for remembering this sequence because memorizing 55875 raw is difficult. Here is how I think of the odd sign sequence. The D30 is all about learning hard lessons, right?
Very hard lessons, yes.
So first, the tough teachers show up. Mars and Saturn. They take the first 2 blocks of 5. They hit you right away with discipline in an odd sign.
Mars brings conflict and acute energy. Saturn brings delay, restriction, and endurance. Tough teachers indeed.
Then after you get roughed up by the tough teachers, the wise advisors step in to help you intellectually understand the lesson. That's Jupiter and Mercury. Because they have so much wisdom and data to impart, they take the biggest chunks in the middle, 8 degrees and 7 degrees.
Jupiter providing higher philosophical wisdom, Mercury providing logical, intellectual processing.
And finally, once the hard lesson is learned and processed, you get a little reward at the end. Pleasure comes last. Venus gets the final 5 degrees. Tough teachers 5 and 5, wise advisors 8 and 7, pleasure 5.
It's a very effective narrative mnemonic, and for the even signs, you just reverse the story. You start with pleasure and indulgence, you process it intellectually, you gain philosophical wisdom from the indulgence, and then you face the restriction and conflict at the end as a consequence.
That is so good. Okay, so we know the blocks and we know the rulers. Now, what is the actual placement rule? Once we know a planet falls into, say, Saturn's block, where does it actually go in the D30 chart? How do we find its new sign?
The text gives a very specific interlocking placement rule. A planet in an odd sign in the birth chart will be placed in the odd sign ruled by its D30 planet. A planet in an even sign in the birth chart goes to the even sign of its D30 ruler.
Let me make sure I fully grasp this because it's a 2-step logic puzzle. Let's walk through the sources example. We have Mercury placed in the main birth chart in the sign of Libra at exactly 7 degrees and 31 minutes.
Okay, step 1. Analyze the original sign, Libra. Is it odd or even?
Libra is the 7th sign of the zodiac. 7 is an odd number, so we use the odd sign rule, 55875.
Step 2. Determine which block 7 degrees and 31 minutes falls into within that sequence.
Well, the first block is 0 to 5 degrees, ruled by Mars. 7 degrees 31 minutes is past that. It lands squarely in the second block, which runs from 5 degrees to 10 degrees.
And which planet rules that second block in an odd sign?
Our second tough teacher, Saturn.
Correct. So we say that Mercury falls into Saturn's Trimshamsha division.
Step 3. Apply the placement rule. Our original planet, Mercury, was in Libra, which we establish is an odd sign. The rule says a planet in an odd sign goes to the odd sign of its new D30 ruler.
Our D30 ruler is Saturn. Saturn rules 2 signs of the zodiac, Capricorn and Aquarius.
Step 4. We have to pick between Capricorn and Aquarius. Capricorn is the 10th sign, that's an even number. Aquarius is the 11th sign, that's an odd number. The rule demands the odd sign. Therefore, Mercury goes into Aquarius in the D30 chart.
Spot on. You have successfully navigated the Trimshamsha calculation.
When you lay it out like that, it feels incredibly satisfying. It feels like cracking a safe combination. You take Mercury at 7 degrees, 31 minutes in Libra. You look at it, you know it's in the second block. That's Saturn. Libra's odd. Saturn's odd sign is Aquarius. Click, click, click. The safe opens, and you've just mapped a piece of someone's deep psychological shadow.
It is incredibly satisfying to calculate. And more importantly, it unlocks a level of psychological interpretation that the basic birth chart simply cannot access.
Let's interpret it then. Mercury in Aquarius in the D30. Mercury is communication, intellect, how we process data. It's now sitting in Aquarius, a fixed air sign ruled by Saturn. In a shadow chart, what does that look like?
In the context of the D30, the chart of character flaws and miseries, this might point to a character flaw of intellectual arrogance or intense emotional detachment. Aquarius is brilliant, but it can be rigidly dogmatic about its ideas. Mercury here might mean the person uses their intellect to alienate others, or they refuse to listen to opposing viewpoints because they believe their logic is absolute.
And how does that character flaw attract misery?
The misery, the arishta, might manifest as radical isolation. They might face public downfalls where they are misunderstood or ostracized by their community, or they might face legal miscommunications that cost them dearly. The misery is designed to break down that intellectual rigidity and force them to develop empathy.
It is a perfectly calibrated system of cause and effect. Okay, let's take a massive step back and synthesize the journey we've just been on today. If you are still listening, look at what you have just accomplished. You have gone from looking at the broad, muddy strokes of a basic birth chart to calculating the precise, high-definition microcharts for 3 of the major pillars of human existence.
You've learned how to isolate the architecture of your career and real-world prosperity with the D10 Dashamsha. You've traced the deeply embedded karmic roots of your parents and your past life assignments with the D12 Dwadashamsha. And you face the shadow, mapping character flaws and the adversities they attract with the D30 Trimshamsha.
And think about how beautifully these three charts weave together into a continuous loop of lived life. Our karmic roots in the D12 give us our foundational psychology, our wounds, and our starting resources. Those roots feed directly into our character flaws, which are mapped in the D30. And those character traits, our resilience, our arrogance, our ability to communicate, directly dictate how we navigate the world, how we respond to failure, and ultimately, how we achieve our ambitions in the D10 career chart. They're all talking to each other.
It is a holistically integrated system. It is the complete view of the human experience from the esoteric to the material.
I want to encourage you to take these tools and play with them. You now possess the mental shortcuts. You have the corporate ladder sky bridge for the D10. You have the clock face and the 10-degree cheat code for the D12. You have the tough teachers and wise advisors for the D30. You can look at any raw planetary degree on a chart, whether it's 23 degrees 58 minutes or 12 degrees 34 minutes, and mentally calculate the mechanics of where it sits in these crucial divisional charts. You don't need a software program to understand the logic. You have the logic in your head.
Knowledge is most valuable when it is understood at a foundational level and actually applied. You are now fully equipped to apply it.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the Vargas, I want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to mull over, something that bridges the math, the philosophy, and everything we've talked about today.
What is the grand takeaway that stands out to you?
It goes back to that tension we started with, the muddy waters of the universe versus the clean precision of the X-ray. If the D12 explicitly links our parents to our past lives, meaning our souls actively drew them to us for a specific evolutionary reason, and if the D30 explicitly links our life's miseries to our own internal character flaws, meaning our shadow attracts our suffering, what does that actually say about the entire concept of luck?
That is a profound paradigm-shifting question.
Are we ever truly just victims of random misfortune? Or is the universe not a muddy puddle of chaos at all, but rather a highly customized, perfectly calibrated mirror designed specifically to force us to evolve? Let that thought marinate. Keep exploring your charts, keep doing the math on those napkins, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.